welcome to DFS Zone, your source for daily fantasy sport lineup advice for the NBA and the NFL. Got a brand new video for you guys today. We're going to discuss today's 8-game slate in the association. But before I get started, like always, I appreciate you guys drop a like. I greatly appreciate it. And if you're new to the channel and you've never been here before, you have not become part of the DFS Zone family here and join the community, the only thing you have to do is subscribe down below. Make sure you put on your post notifications, that little bell icon. Make sure you turn that on. This way you don't miss out on any of my NBA or NFL lineup advice videos. With that being said, today is Friday, November the 2nd, 2018. We got the 8-game slate in the association, like I said. I'm going to give you a stud 5 and a value 5. I got a couple budget plays as well for today. Yesterday's line, a lot of guys did very, very well again. Maybe one or two busts here and there. I definitely CJ McCollum was a big bust yesterday. But other than that, I mean, he was really the worst. Other than that, a couple of the value plays, even some of the budget plays came through as well. So nonetheless, not a bad night. I did win a little bit of money. Again, I play GPPs, guys. I have not yet hit one of the big ones, but I always truly believe that I will get one very, very soon. So back to the grind, be plugging away again today, try to find the best possible combination here. All right, as far as helping you guys out, man, point guard today, there's definitely a couple of nice plays. Like always, there's always going to be a stud up here at the top, you know, as far as value, as far as price, that may be suitable. I mean, Westbrook, Curry, Wall, and even Paul, even Lowry, all these guys are pretty much in play. My only concerns are some of the matchups. Westbrook against Washington, him and Wall are going to go at it. One of them is going to go off. Probably both of them will. It's just I'm going to pass up on every one of these. I'm going to have some exposure to Westbrook. I will have some exposure to Wall, and I will have some exposure to Chris Paul. I'm going to be honest with you right now. There will be a few lineups of mine where I'll have a little sprinkle of these guys, but they're not quite my core. I'm going to come down to Mike Conley. I really like him as one of my core plays. I will be probably putting him in every one of my lineups. Love the matchup with Utah. Obviously, Utah has no Donovan Mitchell, so that definitely helps as well. But Mike Conley, man, 19 points per game, 3.7 rebounds, 6.2 assists, 35.5 fantasy points per game. He's at 7,700. You need pretty much about 37 to cover. Value is slightly above his average right now, but I'm not concerned. He is 7K on DK, so you only need 35 there. But as you can see, he has had two 41-point games. Did put up a 45 spot against Utah earlier, and which was back on the 22nd, as you can see here, October 22nd. He is playing massive minutes. Okay, the minutes are there. You know, let's go over to the cruncher a little bit. And let's find my boy here, Mike Conley. And the usage rate is there, man. Look at 30% pretty much over the last 4 games. 30%. Last 4 games, 18 shots per game from the floor and 7 shots from 3. So he's taking massive shots. You see the shots are there. They need to just go down a little bit more, get a little bit more better field goal percentage. If he can do that, he'll be just fine. He did miss 4 three-pointers here, only hit 2 out of 8 here in the last game. So if he could just touch up on it. But the thing about him, he fills up the stat sheet. He does a lot of little things. As you can see, he could steal, he could block. He's not a guy that fouls a lot, so you're not going to have an issue there. He's going to be on the court the longest. He can pass the ball, and he does a little bit of rebounding, not a whole lot, but he does pass the ball, and he's capable of defending and putting up a lot of steals in certain games. So, I mean, the longest his field goal percentage is up, I can see him putting up some even more bigger numbers. He's going up against Utah with, of course, like I mentioned, no D. Mitch. Rubio is not the greatest defender, you know. So even if Rubio does guard him, I'm not too concerned there. They are coming in 9th in defending point guards this year, as far as Utah is concerned, and they usually are pretty good at that in that area. But again, there's no D. Mitchell, which I believe Mitchell would be more on Conley tonight if he was playing. Utah is also coming in, allowing 109 points per game. That's the 7th least in the NBA, so they actually are doing pretty well defensively. They are one of the better defending teams usually. They've been giving up 41 fantasy points per game to point guards, though. They really have struggled there. They gave up 66 the other night, obviously, to Derrick Rose. They gave up 36 to Smith, Dennis Smith Jr., 41 to Harden, 45 to Mr. Conley himself just a couple games back, 50 to Curry and 42 to De'Aaron Fox. So they have given up tons and tons of fantasy points. He already has played them, already did well in the first matchup against them. I do expect him to actually even be in a position to put up 45 plus, even more so in this game, due to the fact that there is no Donovan Mitchell. So I love Mike Conley here. I think he's in a favorable matchup without no without no Donovan Mitchell, I definitely liked the matchup better for him. So Michael Conley is my favorite stud point guard for today. Again, like I said, I do have some exposure to Westbrook, Wall, and Mr. Chris Paul tonight as well. Okay, let's go down. My other point guard, man, I'm going to go back to the well. I gave you guys this guy as a value play the other day. I'm going to give it to him, give it to you guys again, because chances are Jeff Teague is my... Now, this is, again, if Jeff Teague is out, definitely Derrick Rose is. As you know, he had the historic night the other night. He didn't have no Jimmy Butler. There was no Jeff Teague. He had to carry the team. I gave you guys him as a value play. He came through, put up 63.8. I don't expect him to put up 63.8 today. Jimmy Butler is back. If he will not be in play for me if there's some Teague back tonight. If Teague is out as well as Jones, I definitely love Derrick Rose. He will get probably 30 to 35 minutes, will not get 40 with Jimmy Butler back. But at 6,000, you need pretty much 30. On DK, he's 5,400. You need 27. All very much doable and attainable for Derrick Rose. He's averaging 18.8 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 32.2 fantasy points per game. You know, and as you can see, he had the massive game there. We'll go over to the Fantasy Cruncher. And he's going up, as you can see, against Golden State, 29th in defending point guards thus far this year. But look at the Green, 4 solid games, pretty much 6 out of his first 7 games of all hit value. 47 spot here. Did get the 66 big ones here against Utah. Massive shots. But before the massive game, obviously we want to see more or less where he was at. And as you can see, he was pretty much at about 21 to 22% usage rate, pretty much more or less, which is fantastic for someone who was coming off the bench behind Teague. He's taking about 13 to 16 shots per game, which is pretty darn good, and taking about maybe 3 to 4 shots on average from 3 as well. So he was taking about 17, probably about anywhere between 16 to 20 shots total per game. So those, you know, you're getting that much usage and you're taking that many shots, you obviously will want to have a little bit of exposure to someone like this. So definitely in this matchup here against Golden State coming in, they're allowing 111.9 points per game to the opposition and allowing pretty much only 24.1 fantasy points per game right now to point guards, which is not bad at all. But they did give up 48.6, pretty much a 49 spot to Mr. Schroder, 28 to Rubio, and 39 to Mr. Russell of the Brooklyn Nets. So there is some room here for the explosiveness and the energy that Derrick Rose brings to the table now that he's feeling healthy. I hope he continues to play well, considering all the stuff this kid has been through. You know, I really feel bad for him the times he got hurt, because he is that good of a player. So we'll see how that pans out for him. But I do like Derrick Rose here today. As far as a budget play, I mean, you can't pass up today as a budget play Dante Exum for the Utah Jazz. There is no Donovan Mitchell. Dante Exum seemed like he's been getting the minutes. He got 25 in the last game against Minnesota. Put 14, 4, 3, and 1 steal, 26 fantasy points. He's at 3,800. You only need about 17 or 18. Very much attainable. He's 3,700 on DK. So, again, only about 17, more or less. He has 26-point upside. He did 22 here in 26 minutes. He's probably going to get 25 minutes again today. I think he's in an excellent position. 19, and he's a scorer. This is what he does. You can see here, 14, 6, 11, 9, 4. He's not coming in here and just getting rebounds and assists. He does a little bit of everything. And this is what makes him pretty good, is because he's able to score and he gets in rhythm. He gets a couple of shots off. They'll feed it to him even more. And he's willing to go out there and get some rebounds and some assists. And he defends fairly well. So you're getting a lot of everything. When you can get somebody to defend a little bit, that's when you see the extra fantasy points that you really love as a daily fantasy sport player, you know. So here we got 26 and 19. The usage rate 18 to 24, so you figure 22, maybe more or less 21% usage rate over the last 2 games. He's not going to take a ton of shots. He usually takes a lot of good open look shots. But as you can see, he'll take his occasional 3. He does rebound, he does assist, and he does some of the other dirty things like getting some blocks and steals. And that's what you need if you want to get some fantasy points. And that's the kind of upside that he brings. When you want upside on a guard like this who gets very minimal minutes, is coming off the bench or is playing, he's probably going to start, probably get a bit more massive minutes today. I really think he's a fine play, someone that definitely you guys should consider today. At point guard, as one of those low price budget guys. Okay, we go to shooting guard. At shooting guard, man, I mean, I'm going to stay with my boy JB. I mean, he's had plenty of rest. He's had a couple of days off. He didn't play in the last game. 9,600. Jimmy Butler is in play, man. This is a nationally televised game. He's going to get fired up to play against Golden State tonight. So I definitely like this whole matchup here. 22.5 points per game, 5.3 rebounds, 3.3 assists, 45.4 fantasy points per game. At 9,600, you need about 47. And on DK, you need about 40, which is very much attainable for him. The last, as you can see here, he's solid. Last 4 games, 49 plus. He's had 160 plus upside. He has 160-point game, so he has 60-point upside. He's averaging pretty much, let's go over here to the Fantasy Cruncher. He's pretty much averaging 20 to about 22% usage rate. He's taking about 13 shots per game from the floor and about 5 or 6, pretty much more or less from 3. He fills up the stat sheet, man. He can defend. He gets some steals. He gets the blocks. Look at this. 3 steals and 3 blocks in his last 2 outings. He had a dud game here where he shot 2 of 11, but it was a blowout situation. They did not play well here. He only got 4 points. But as you can see, he is pretty steady. He's going to get 20-plus points from the floor per game, and even more so. So I like the matchup. I think he has a great opportunity here. Nationally televised game. He's going to get pumped up. He has plenty of days to rest. Going up against Golden State. Golden State 29th, as you can see here, in defending small shooting guards. They're allowing 111 points per game to the opposition and 33.3 fantasy points per game. They're actually having a more difficult time here at shooting guard than they're doing at point guard. But they're facing somebody who's really just a monster. The other guys that have done well against them, Booker 40, Gary Harris put a 42, Bradley Beal put 35, and Drew Holiday put a 47. So, again, he fits right in that mold of those guys and maybe even more better than those guys. Jimmy B is definitely in play for me tonight. I think he's going to get us 50 or better in this matchup. It's going to be a game where they're going to have to score a lot of points. So him and D. Rose are going to be the guys that are going to have to get busy. And, of course, Mr. Karl Anthony Towns. All right, come down here. My next play is my value play here, shooting guard. Man, I'm going to go down. It's going to be someone that normally I don't go to, but I think he's in a good matchup, and I think he needs to play well today, and that's Dennis Schroder. Dennis Schroder, think about it. OKC has pretty much 2 point guards. Schroder's been playing the point, pretty much his whole career. Now, he had a fantastic game against Charlotte the other day, 30 minutes, put up 21 points from the floor, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, had 1 steal, had 33.1 fantasy points. He's averaging 14.4 points per game, 3.7 rebounds, 6.1 assists, 28.5 fantasy points per game at 5,100. You need pretty much 25. And on DK, he's 5,300. You need about 21. You need about 26, excuse me. You need about 26 from him on DK. Very much attainable. That is actually below his average right now. And then we'll look to see if he's at somewhere near his average. He did put 33 in the last game. Did have a little bit of a dud game here. But that could be his floor pretty much as far as fantasy points, which is pretty much 19. I can live with that. I definitely see that he has the potential. He has 40-point upside. Did put up 48.6 here against Golden State the first time around. So, he's gonna get another. Against Golden State the first time, the first game of the season, I meant. But 48.6 fantasy points against Golden State. So he has had some good games. Let's go over here to the Fantasy Cruncher, Mr. Schroder. Another thing also, man, is this guy, that price is pretty cheap for Dennis Schroder. We're talking about a guy here that, most of the year last year was in the $7,000 range. Look at that right here. He's been as low as 6,005, 6,002, but as high as 73 and 7,000 during the course of last year. And this year he's pretty much been in the 5s. Now, granted, he is playing with Russell Westbrook, and Westbrook gets more of the attention. He's going to get more of the usage, and he's going to get more of the shots. But if you still look at Dennis Schroder's numbers here, this year, he's still getting more than enough shots, man. He's playing decent enough minutes, anywhere between 25 to as much as 27, 28. He's getting about 10 to 13 shots per game. He's getting at least 2 or 3 3-point opportunities per game. And he does all the other things, which makes him good. What makes him so good is that he is able to attack the boards really well. He really can slash and dash and get in there underneath the boards, and he's not afraid to go to the basket with the ball to get himself on the foul line. As you can see, he does have the assist ability, skill set, and then he can steal a little bit. He could get his defense on and get those extra fantasy points for us. I like the whole idea. The more important thing for me is that he is a little bit too cheap. So at 5,100 and 5,300 on DK, I think he is definitely a fine play, and getting at least almost 12 to 15 shots a game. You can't go wrong with that. Going up against Washington, they're 10th in defending point guards thus far this year, and they're allowing the most points per game to the opposition this year. They are giving up 122.4 points per game to the opponent, and that is pretty pitiful for Washington. They really look very bad this year. 26.8 fantasy points per game to shooting guards. They gave up 27 to Mr. Temple, 25 to Bradley, who's a defensive wizard. He's not really a big, explosive offensive player. Put up 25 in them, and the only big score that someone put up was Mr. Richardson of the Miami Heat with 44. So definitely Schroder, there's a lot of wiggle room here for him to be able to get value here and exceed value. I definitely love the matchup for Dennis Schroder here at 20, needing 25. I can see him getting 30 or better today and meeting value. As far as a value play here, I'm going to go down to one of my Knickerbockers, and I'm going to go with Mr. Alonzo Trier. Alonzo Trier putting up 9.3 points, 2.8 rebounds, 1.3 assists, 14.8. Pretty much you could round it out to 15 fantasy points per game thus far this year, coming off the bench. He has played 23 to 24 minutes the last 2 games consecutively. He has put up 14 and 12, so he's a scorer. 3 rebounds, 5 rebounds, total of 8 rebounds in 2 games, 3 assists, 1 block. He's averaging pretty much 21-22, which is above his average over the last 2 games. He's getting some minutes. He's a part of the rotation coming off the bench. He has a great opportunity here to definitely get you 18 or better. You need pretty much 17 or 18 here. He is 3,600 on DK, so pretty much the same. Anything between 16, 17, even 18 fantasy points is very much attainable for Alonzo Trier. Going up against Dallas. Dallas is right now 18th in defending shooting guards this year, allowing 37.9 fantasy points per game to shooting guards. They gave up 47 to Booker, 44 to Levine, 54 to Bazemore, 61 to DeRozan. Granted, those are some big names, but what I look at is that this kid the only thing we need him to do is to get above 20 and we'll be happy. And he has the upside, I think, in a game like this with the way this defense has had trouble with three-point shooters as well as just shooting guards in general. He has the possibilities here of getting you 25, maybe even 30 fantasy points. And that's just in my opinion, but I think it just matches up well for him. So Mr. Trier here could be an excellent play at 3,800 for the New York Knicks. We go over to small forward. At small forward today, granted, I'm going to have a little sprinkle of Durant. I probably will not play Kawhi today. Kawhi is my boy, man. I love Kawhi Leonard, but I got a feeling this game is going to be an ugly game, and he's going to go off early, and then he's not going to need to play as much. And I don't know if he'll get to that 50 point. You need about 51 to pay off that 10,003. I think Durant has a better shot in a nationally televised game at home to cover the 10,007. So I'm going to have a little more exposure to Durant. But I don't think I'm playing Leonard today. But I'm definitely going to play Paul George just to bring down price. I think the best play is Durant. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to have a lot of exposure to Durant. Probably easily half of my lineups. But also to share with you guys, I think 9,800 for Paul George. He's in a good spot here. Favorable matchup where he could be able to get 45, 50 or better. He's averaging 23.4 points per game, 7.1 rebounds, 3.4 assists, 44 fantasy points per game. At 9,800, you need about 48. And on DK, he's 9,000 on the nose. You need 45. And he's averaging more than 45 in 3 straight games. And he's hit 44 or 43 in 5, pretty much 6 out of his 8 games. And his floor right now, as far as fantasy points, it's been 33.1. So I can live with 33. I think he's going to get more beyond 33. The minutes are there. The points are there. He had 2 double-doubles in a row. 2 straight double-doubles. And let's go over here to the Fantasy Cruncher. And look at the usage, man. At least 25 to 26%. Pretty much more or less 27% maybe within the last 4 games. He's taking about 18 to 19 shots per game, more or less, as you could average this out. And about 8 threes a game, more or less, over the last 4 or 5 games. So he has been very, very productive for this team. Then he brings the rebounding. He brings a little bit of assists, and he brings the defense. 4 steals and 3 blocks in the last game for massive fantasy points. 2 before that, 2 the game before that with 3. I mean, he's capable of getting you at least a steal or 2 a game and at least a block a game. Those are all additional bonus fantasy points for us on top of his rebounding skills, his shooting ability, his his scoring ability, and so on and so forth. So Paul George here, I think, is in a great spot here today against a team like Washington that's given up tons of points to the opposition this year. Tons of points. Washington 10th in defending small forwards, as you can see here. Going up against Washington is allowing the most points per game to the opposition, 122.4 points per game. They've given up 26, pretty much a 27 spot in fantasy points per game to small forwards, which is not their weakest area. But again, I'm looking at the matchup. They got to deal with George, Schroder, and, of course, Westbrook. So something's got to give. I think the Schroder as well as George are in very, very good spots here if they decide to definitely buckle down on Westbrook. So that's my thinking on this. But they gave up 33 to Kyle Henderson, 53 to Durant, which is obviously one of the best players in the league, and 39 to Mr. Magruder. So there is room for Paul George if Magruder was able to get 39 as well as Kyle Anderson. Yes, Kyle Anderson put up 33 fantasy points against Washington. So I definitely like the chances for PG 13 here tonight. So Paul George is definitely in play for me. He is my stud small forward. We go. So coming down here, my next guy is I'm going to go back to the world of TJ Warren. I think he's just in a situation where, again, this is more of a play. And again, I'm going to basically go over everything again. By later on today, again, go down to the comment section of this actual video. I'm going to definitely put up my last decisions on whom I think are definitely viable for today. But TJ Warren, I think he's in a good spot. Again, if there is no Booker, which I believe he's not going to play today, and if there's no Cannon, it definitely opens the doors for him to have a lot more touches, more opportunities, and more usage to be the one to be putting up the points. So I like TJ Warren here. I mean, 16 points, 3.6 rebounds, 1.4 assists, 25.1 fantasy points, pretty much 25 fantasy points per game at 5,400. You need about 27, and on DK's 5K, you need 25. We come over here, and let's take a look at him at the cruncher here. Where is he? TJ Warren. There he goes there. And, man, he's got 33, two plus 30-point games in a row. Love TJ here, man, against tonight. TJ's 40-point upside, as you can see. He definitely did it here. Last 2 games, his usage rate is around 25, 26%, give or take. Taking up massive shots. All right. He's taken a bunch of shots here, 16 and 17 the last 2 games, 2 and 5 from 3. Granted, they needed him to step up. He's going to need to do that again tonight. If that opportunity is there, I think he's going to take it. And, he's not big as far as assists and all that in total because he's pretty much a scorer. He's a pure shooter. He's a guy that definitely loves to take the threes, hit the perimeter shots, get those pick and rolls, those screens, and be able to open up his shots. So I do think he has an opportunity here, man. 16 shots per game pretty much from the floor and 3 shots pretty much on average from 3 over the last 5 or 6 games. I think that's pretty darn good. So he's definitely involved in the offense. He'll be more involved, obviously, if Booker is out as well as if Cannon is out. They're going up against Toronto, giving up 109 points per game, which is the 6th least amount in the league. We know Toronto's always going to be fairly good at defending. But they have allowed 32.2 fantasy points per game thus far this year to small forwards. They gave up 38 to Osman, 39 to Covington, 34 to Middleton, and 51 big ones to Jimmy Butler. So there is a little wiggle room. Like always, I always say, there's always a little space here for TJ Warren to get 30 to 35 and meet value and crush value. So I can see him possibly exceeding value here, especially if Booker and Cannon are out. So I definitely like him there. As far as a budget play, something under 4, really low. I'm going to go back to my Knickerbockers again. I think Mario Hezonja has an opportunity here today. At 3,600, he is definitely pretty cheap. You only need 15 or 16. He did get 16, 11, and 13 here. He did have a 31 spot in 30 minutes here. If he can get 20 to 25 minutes, surprisingly, in a game like this today, he can get you 20 to 25. and he'll smash this 3,600 price tag. He's 3,600 here. He's also 3,500 on DK. And you know him. He's like a streaky shooter, man. He gets hot, and he starts burying those shots. He's going to be darn good. Dallas is coming in, giving up 33.3 fantasy points per game to small forwards. That's one of the reasons why I point him out. 31 to Prince, 26 to Wiggins, and 44 to Ariza. Did give up 51 to Kawhi Leonard and 50 to LeBron James. You got to, obviously those guys are at another level than Hezonja, but I definitely could see him where the Wiggins and the Princes and the Arizas, that he has an opportunity. Plus, he's a shooter. He likes shooting threes, and he's capable of hitting the ball, the shot from the perimeter, and he's not afraid to attack the basket. So I think at 3,800, I think he could be a very sneaky play here if this game stays close, and the Knicks at least give him the fifth. At least I would say he has to get at least 20 minutes. I may change my mind on that, so just make sure that you follow me later in the day as the day progresses. Might change that. But power forward. Let's go to the power forward. Power forward, man, I'm on Draymond Green today. I think his price is just right. He is not extremely expensive, and he has so much upside. We know he can get you 50, so he could definitely get you 10x. And here he is, come on, 8,000. You need pretty much 40. He's at 8 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, pretty much almost a triple-double. 34.7 fantasy points per game, so pretty much round out to 35. He's had 38 or better in 4 straight games. 38, 46, 39, 45. So he's been solid. Has 50-point upside, as we know. He has had 1 double-double, has double-double and triple-double ability any given night. We all know that. He is capable of it. He hasn't been himself, but now over the last 4 games, you can see he's starting to come along. So DG is definitely in play. And let's go over to the Fantasy Cruncher. And where is my boy Draymond Green? Right here. And as you see, he's not going to take tons of shots. This is not Draymond. Draymond gets a lot of putbacks, he just does all the stuff underneath, the dirty stuff under the basket. So he's going to get his 5 to maybe 6 or 7 shots per game there, and he'll put a couple of shots in, and he'll be all right. What he does best is all the other things, is the rebounding, the assists, and the defense, getting blocks, getting steals. If he can do that on a regular basis, he's going to get us the triple-double. He's going to get us all that extra bonus fantasy points that we want. Those are the things that he brings to the table. He's good at, all the rebounding, assisting, steals, blocking. He fills up the stat sheet, man. This is what he basically does. Going up against Minnesota, they're 6th in defense against power forwards this year, which is pretty darn good, but have been allowing 118.5 points per game, which is not a Minnesota defense that we know of. Minnesota have always been pretty decent as far as defensively, but this year they've been really horrible, giving up a lot of points per game. They're allowing 37.3 fantasy points per game. That's one of their weakest areas in their whole defense. They've been struggling with power forward, so definitely a major opportunity here for Draymond Green. Okay, that's one of 2 of the most weakest areas for them. It's usually up front. They gave up 30 to Kuzma, 41 to Giannis, 40 to Doncic, 58 to Love, 56 to Ulrich. So there's plenty of opportunity here for Draymond Green to have a massive game. So I definitely love Mr. Green here in this matchup, especially in a nationally televised game tonight, late night game. At power forward for value, man, I really have 2 guys I really like tonight. I like Pascal Siakam, and I do like Noah Vonleh of the New York Knicks. They're both in about the same area, same price range. I would say I favor Vonleh a little bit more because we know for a fact he is going to be a part of the front court of this team right now. He's actually been starting 22, 28, 32. The minutes have been going up higher. He had a 42 spot in his last game, 27 or better in 3 straight games. He had 1 double-double. He has, as you can see, 40-point upside. All right, so we got Vonleh here. As you can see, Vonleh, 33, 29, 22 the last few minutes. His usage rate is not going to be high because he's not going to take tons of shots. All his shots are very close, right underneath the basket. What he brings to the table, his upside is rebounding and defense. That's pretty much it. We want him to rebound, and as you can see, 8 defensive rebounds a game, 2 offensive, 10 a game here. He gets his little few passes up close. He dishes them back out, but this is where he is strong at. Steals and blocks. Pretty much in his 3 games here in a row, he's had 5 steals and 5 blocks. And that's all additional big fantasy points for us who play fantasy sports. We want to see that in a NFL and NBA DFS. So Noel Vonleh for me is definitely someone to consider here tonight. Going up against Dallas. Dallas 18th in defense in defending power forwards, as you can see here, allowing 116 points per game to the opposition and allowing 25.6 fantasy points per game to power forwards. They did give up 45, the largest amount to Rudy Gay. They gave up 26 to Gibson, 26 to Bobby Portis, and 23 to Siakam. And I can see Vonleh being in that same category as a Portis and a Siakam. So there is definitely opportunity for him to get 30 or better here, and I believe he will. Other than him, if you're not on Vonleh, definitely Siakam. Siakam has had 2 straight games at 42 points or better, 42 and 47. Those are massive. He's playing more than 30 minutes a game, which I like. He has had 1 double-double, which was in the last game, 15 and 15. Excellent. Going up against Phoenix, they're 8th in defending power forwards, allowing 118 points per game to the opposition and 25 fantasy points per game to power forwards. They did give up 35 to Millsap, 33 to Draymond Green, and 26 to Kuzma. So, again, not in the same field as a Draymond Green or Millsap, but Siakam can definitely get it done here. He's on fire. He's getting involved in this Toronto team, coming off the bench, even starting at times. I think he's been starting most of these games as well. So Siakam and Ibaka are both going off. You could go Ibaka as well in this matchup against Phoenix. But I like Siakam and I like Vonleh. Those are my best. Those are my 2 favorite there. All right, let's go over to center. Last spot for today. Sorry that the videos are lengthy. I'm going to go right away, man. Vukovich is my man. I went to him once before this year in a favorable matchup, and he came through, and he's going to be in a favorable matchup here again. Now, granted, up here in the top, Gobert as well as Anthony Towns, they're both in good spots here. Nationally televised game. Golden State doesn't have a great center. Great opportunity for Anthony Towns to put up some nice numbers. So I think he's okay in that price for that price range. Gobert, same thing. You only need 50 there. He's capable of getting you 50. He's had 53 straight games. The only thing is he's going up against Marc Gasol, and Marc Gasol is not a bad defender as a center. And Memphis as a team in general, they're pretty good defensively. I think the 2nd best in the league. So Gobert may have a tougher matchup due to who he's going up against. Towns a little bit easier. And Vukovich definitely in play for me at 8,900, man. I think that's definitely a little low for him. I mean, he's capable of getting you 50 or better. He's got 43 in his last game. 4 out of his last 5 games, he's pretty much averaging 43 or better. He's had 1 60-point game, has 60-point upside. We come over here. And we'll see him up here on the top, going up against the 25th defending centers this year in the Clippers. And you see that here, his usage rate pretty much about 25% or better. So he is definitely a very big part of their offense when he has the ball, when he touches the ball. Only takes about anywhere between 12, maybe to as much as 14 or 15 shots per game. But he's getting it done from there. And then, of course, he does all the dirty work. He gets all the rebounds. And he's capable of defending. He gets at least a steal and a block per game on average, pretty much the last 3 games. So he's a solid play, man. Solid play. Versus LA, no, they have no center to defend him. There's no doubt. There's nobody on there. They're allowing 111 points per game to the opposition. They are in a front end of a back-to-back. That's another thing to consider here. That's one of the other reasons why I like Vukovich, who's well-rested. They're giving up 42.2 fantasy points per game to centers thus far this year. That is a whole lot of fantasy point opportunity there for Mr. Vukovich. They gave up 68 to Embiid, which I gave you last night. And I told you Joel Embiid will have a nice game, and he had a monster game. So he came through as one of my picks. 41 and 44 to Steven Adams in 2 meetings. 45 and 41 to Clint Capella in 2 meetings. And 45 to Mr. Jokic of Denver. So they're giving up tons of points, and now they got to go up and deal with Vukovich after they dealt with Embiid last night. So I think Vuk is in an awesome spot here. Definitely love him here. As far as value, I don't really see a whole lot of value. If there is someone that you can consider here at center, it will be probably Jonas Valanciunas at 5,800. My only problem with Jonas is, like I always say here, even going back to last year, they just don't play him enough minutes. But when he's in there, he is very efficient. He is definitely 1 fantasy point per minute player. 17 minutes here, he put up 32.3 fantasy points because he got 2 blocks, 4 rebounds, and 23 points from the floor. That is being very, very efficient from the floor. 13, 7, 1, 26.6 fantasy points per game at 5,800. You pretty much need 28. Very much attainable for him. And he's 5,300 on DK. You only need 26. So I think he's in a good spot, man. 40-point upside. This team, Phoenix, allowed 43.6 fantasy points per game to centers. That is the most in the NBA. So definitely Valanciunas is in a great position. They gave up 80 to Jokic, 45 to McGee, 40 to Gasol, and 55 to Nerlens Noel. 55 to Nerlens Noel. So, yes, definitely a good spot for Jonas Valanciunas. He will probably be the value play, but I do like another guy that I'm going to have a lot of exposure to, and that's Marc Gasol. Marc Gasol is in a great spot as well, man. I mean, you know, I'm giving you 3 centers here. 15.3 points, 8.2 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 36.7 fantasy points per game. He's up to about 37. 8,100, you need 40. On DK, he's 7,200. You only need 35. That's actually below his average. He's put up 2, 40, and 49. He's had 3 40-point games or better. He's playing more than enough minutes, over 30 minutes. 3 out of his last 4 40 points, played 30-plus minutes over the last few games. We come over here. He's averaging about maybe 22, 23% usage rate over that span. And he gets more than enough shot opportunities. About 17, I would say about 16, 17, maybe about 14 shots from the floor per game on average. And he takes about 4 or 5 threes a game. For a big man, that's pretty much a lot. That's pretty darn good. He needs to get more rebounds, but he's the kind of guy that he defends. So you get the 5 steals like he did in his last game, gave him a lot of fantasy points. He had 3 the game before that. So he's gonna get you steals. He'll get the occasional games where he get a couple of blocks depending on who he's defending or who he's playing against, and he's able to pass the ball. He does a little bit of everything, you know. He just hasn't looked that good as of yet, but now, as of late, in the last 3 out of 4 games in that 40 range, he is a 50-plus or better upside. I like Marc Gasol here, so definitely that's where I'm at. So anyway, guys, that's pretty much it, man. Those are my guys for today. Again, remember, at the end of the day, check back about an hour, maybe a half hour before lock. I will put a comment down below. I'll pin it to this actual video, and I'll let you know exactly if all these plays that I just mentioned today are all viable and they're going to still be good to go. And at the same time, I'm going to be able to discuss any other value plays, anything else that has come about over the course of the day due to any changes in lineups, any injuries that came about, players that are sitting or resting, and so on and so forth. Remember, in the NBA, you got to be on top of this thing all the way up to about a half hour, 15 minutes before lock. You got to be by your phone or by your computer ready to make changes and make sure you have those players in play just in case someone doesn't play. You know whom you're going to go right to right away. All right, guys? So that's basically it, man. Drop a like on the video. Like always, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Become a part of the DFS Zone community here. And then make sure you put on those post notifications. This way you don't miss out on any of my NBA or NFL videos. And, hey, share the video, man. Put it up in social media, you know, your Twitter account, your Instagram account, your Facebook account. Let's just spread the word. Let's try to get as many DFS players involved in the community, so this way we all be able to help one another out. All right, guys? With that, I wish you guys a lot of luck tonight, and I'll see you guys on the next video.